Hey, if Disney was going to make a movie about the life of Jesus in the 90s, this is that movie without the musical numbers. It is a fun movie to go see.
And by the way, I fought for the musical
Tom
numbers.
tried.
Yeah, Tom did.
He
Yeah.
did constantly.
I brought someone who can help. This is Jesus.
Never heard of him.
He's helping people. I want to be a part of that.
He turned water into wine! He's the king of all kings!
I knew a guy who ate those.
The baptizer?
With the honey and the wild hair.
Ooh, that gets me every time.
Tell me about this Jesus.
Jesus is no Messiah. He's nothing.
And sometimes evil men silence those who speak the truth.
What is truth?
This is not the end. It's the beginning.
He is the light of the world.
Hey everybody, Aaron Blaise here, and I am so excited because we have a special treat today. We have got the entire leadership team from Light of the World, which opens today in theaters around the country. Is that around the country or around the world, you guys?
Actually, it's around the world. So by December 11th, it would have been in theaters in 33 countries.
Wow.
It's rolling out.
But as far as today's release, isn't it mostly US and Canada?
Yeah, US and Canada. But actually, it came out on September 4th in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and Zimbabwe. So it's already started rolling out on September 4th.
Well, and just because I think you're curious about this stuff too, Aaron, it is independent. We're doing this and we're self-distributing. That's why it's a little different than what you normally hear with film releases.
Well, I want to talk about all that. The first thing I want to do is just introduce everybody, and it's going to be ladies first. So we've got Pam Darely. Pam, you want to say hello?
Hi.
Pam, what was, for everybody that doesn't know, what was your role on the film?
I was a co-producer on the film, so working closely with the outsourced studios and TSP as a liaison.
That's awesome. And then, of course, we've got John Schafer on board. John?
Hey, everyone. Yeah, I was one of the directors working closely with Tom, and Pam always undersells herself. She was just beyond a co-producer. She was really working with the art department teams at Epifio, helping with color, doing all this testing, and also she was reining Tom and I in, and Tony.
And of course, we've got the Bancroft brothers. We got Tom Bancroft, who co-directed, correct, Tom?
Yeah. John and I directed together. I almost said produced. That was weird. We had enough producers. We did it together, and man, what a joy! I've known John for 18 years now, and we are very good friends. So we only yelled at each other a couple times.
That's great.
Yeah, good times.
And then Tony, what did you do on the film?
Well, I really taught Tom everything he knows.
Of course. I was there. I watched the whole thing.
There was a lot of heavy lifting there. Yeah, I was the head of story. I started early on, head of story, working with the storyboard artists all the way through being the animation director. So, I was on it from pretty much beginning to end, just like those guys.
I've been dying to ask this. Obviously, for those of you that don't know, Tony was one of the co-directors of Mulan way back in the day, back in 1998. I guess it was when it was released. And and Tom created Mushu in the film. How's it feel to have those roles reversed on this film?
All
right.
Well, how long do you have? How long is this live stream? No, no, it
John,
was good.
wait, let's give this to John. John, there's a story that goes with this one. Go ahead.
Oh, is
So
there?
I had already asked Tom if he, one thing I finally realized, I had never understood like why between Disney and Pixar animated feature film, why there's two directors. So I'm on this film for about a year and it became overwhelming. Just the sheer amount of reviews, character designs, layout, just going through everything. And so I did reach out to Tom and say, hey, Tom, I know Pencilist, you guys are a standalone studio. You're not guns for hire, but man, I would love if you would consider directing this film with me. And both of us directors in that.
Yeah.
And so Tom said yes. And months later, we realized that we were going to need an animation director, but also we needed some short-term help with the heads of story, another head of story. And so Tom calls me and he's like, John, I have never, ever asked you for a favor. And he goes, would you please consider hiring Tony? It's always been my dream. And as soon as he went there, I thought, oh, to work with that twin brother thing, that loving brother thing. He goes, it's always been my dream that Tony works for me.
Well, and
so that answers that.
Yeah, like you were saying, Aaron, just for the audience. Yeah, Tony was my boss on Mulan, and yours, unfortunately, too, Aaron, as the co-director of Mulan.
You're welcome.
And so, this was a full circle moment. Tony, how did it go?
It went well. I mean, I always give you credit, Tom, when I did my own publicity for Mulan, as saying, we handled the I said most of the time the weight was on your shoulders on Mulan. You had to determine when I was talking to you as a brother, because we'd hang out and have lunch together and stuff, and when I was talking to you as a director. And so that was your discernment that you had to kind of learn. And I think you did a better job of that than I did, really. And on this one, I think it was the opposite. I did a better job than you did. Just in general. No, I'm just kidding. I really think that, it was healthy. And I was totally open to just kind of folding underneath you guys. And I really just wanted to give you everything I could that would make this film better, because it was not about our relationships, Aaron, as much as it was about the subject matter. I think, being Christians and being given this opportunity for me personally was like an opportunity of a lifetime. I would have swept the floors on this film. I really would have.
I will say this, Tony, I'm going to pat John on the back, honestly, too, which is, we would oftentimes, and it would usually start with John, kind of go to Tony and go, look, you've directed before. What was it like doing this phase and this? You know what I mean? Like, because both of us, it was our first time directing a feature.
He was kind of the wise old sage, was he?
Yeah, we tapped into that a few times. Yes.
One of the things you mentioned early on is that, this is an independent film, and I want to get really kind of deep into that. I'd like to go back to the beginning a little bit and talk to John a little bit. And, how, I was wondering if you could shed some light, for lack of a better, no pun intended, shed a little light on how the whole project got off the ground and how it all came to be.
Yeah, so I had been, prior to working for Salvation Poem Project, I had been with the Christian Broadcasting Network for 23 years. And about 16 of those was producer for the Superbook series. That's how I got to know Tom, develop a close relationship with him. But there came that season when I felt like, I felt like it was time to move on from CBN and all that stuff. And so when I came here, I was only here for a couple weeks or a couple months, I should say. My job was to create animated shorts for what's called a new believer course. And so after you accept Christ, these are the next easy steps to follow. They're like 1 to 3 minute long in that. And so our founder, Matt McPherson, he took Brendan and I. Brendan McPherson is the producer for Light of the World, the president of Salvation Poem Project. He took us out both for coffee, and he literally just said, like, hey, John, back in the 90s, I really felt God put on my heart that I was supposed to make a film about the life of Jesus. But when God puts something on my heart, I just don't jump at it. It's like, okay, God, if this is you, then you show me when, you show me how. And he says, now fast forward to here where we are, John, I feel like this is the right time. and I feel like it should be an animated film. I always thought it was gonna be live action, but man, your background is animation. And he asked me, how much would it cost to do a 2D animated feature film? Just like that. I said, well, Matt, we have to have a script, character counts, location. And I went through the whole process. He said,
And
oh,
that's
no,
it.
no,
That's
no.
just real quick. That's interesting. He specified 2D.
He specified 2D, and the reason being, and I'll give you a little background about Matt. So Matt, he has created Matthews Archery, which is the largest archery company in the world, and he designed these bows, and he's very much an artisan himself. He also has McPherson guitars, very high-end premium guitars, and so he himself is a musician and an artist and just a craftsmanship. And the one thing that he had said is he wanted this to be 2D animated feature film because he felt like that craftsmanship we don't see anymore. He talked very specifically about Snow White. He said, you know, when you watch her spin around and you watch her gown kind of raise and falls, it has such fluidity, it has natural weight, it's not done by computer simulations, it's done by hand. And because it's done by hand, yeah, there might be little errors or slight things to that, but he says those are the nuances that makes an imperfection medium perfect. And he said that he really felt like if we were going to do a retelling of the life of Jesus, he wanted it to be 2D. He says, why do anything what everyone else is doing? And so that really came from him. But for me, I absolutely love 2D. The first movie my mom and dad ever took me and my brother to in the theaters in 1973 was Robin Hood. And so
That's so funny. That was my first film. Yeah.
that was the first film, and I
it?
fell in love with it. And to this day, it's my all-time favorite film. And so there's something that's, very charming, something very timeless, and very, just very innocent about that medium, that style. And so that's where it was. And
But
like
I want to throw that in there that John's background to that time up to that time was CG animation, and so for Matt to ask that was even stranger, but very cool. He looked at 2D as a classic look.
So long story short, he basically wanted it, he asked for a budget, and I just said, man, I can't throw any number at you. We don't have none of that stuff. And he said, well, just throw me something so I have an idea. And I said, I just figured you're going to go 10 million plus easily.
Yeah.
On the plus side. And he literally said, that number doesn't scare me. So that was kind of the end of that meeting. And the next day he came into the office and asked me and Brennan, hey, so how's things going? Have you guys started thinking of ideas? And I said, oh, Matt, I didn't know how serious you were. And that's when he says, no, I'm very serious. When I said this, and so he sat down with me and says, I want you to hire as many artists as possible to come up with the design of Jesus. And if we cannot come up with a unique design, then why do it at all? Because if we find that unique design, that inform us what the other characters will look like, that will inform us of what that world will look like. And so we went on that journey, and basically when we kind of figured out the budget, it was 20 million. We had to present it to him, and he approved it. And the biggest thing about it is not only did he approve the budget when we built the team, and like I said, a year later, I brought Tom and Tony and Pam. They were outside that budget scope, but when I asked them, Brennan and Matt, why I needed them, they approved it just like that. And they gave us total creative liberty. I've never had that done before. When you work for a ministry, though you're always told to think outside the box, you want to create the best thing possible, you're actually end up making it for the donors. You want the donors to love it and support it. In this one, we got to tell the story the way we felt. We had the liberty, and yeah, it was crazy. And Matt didn't even see the animatic until like the final animatic. He trusted us, and so that's kind of been
like
that journey.
almost 8 months to a year, probably, that we put into this film, and he hadn't seen anything.
Wow. Well, I want to point out really quick to the audience too, $20 million sounds like a lot of money to the average layman sitting there listening to this. But for a wide release film, $20 million is not a lot of money. And so, to achieve the production value that you guys have achieved, to get the scope that you guys have achieved, to get the number of theaters and the marketing and everything else that you've done, That's a huge accomplishment. I mean, when you consider, and I know this is not apples to apples, but when you're looking at big studios like Disney, Pixar that are spending 150, 200 to 250 million dollars on a film nowadays. I know with our film Brother Bear, we had a budget of 90 million dollars 20 years ago. And so, you know, to do a film in the scope that you guys have done, it's really kind of mind blowing, right? And to get it out there.
I just want to jump in and say we sent you a screener. I understand you were able to watch it in this context of $20 million. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm stating it now. I just think it's, well, first of all, you know, you don't want to say, well, that's a great film for $20 million. No,
you're right.
It's either a good film or it's not a good film, and it's a great film. And that's the thing, you know, and I know you guys have talked about this a lot, whether you're a believer or not believer, it's a great story well told, and it's a film that you can sit and enjoy no matter who you are. And so for you guys to have achieved that, I just think is really remarkable. And
that means a lot.
And I know, because I don't want to leave Pam out of the discussion. How was, you know, what was your job like on this, and how did you manage to kind of wrangle bringing this in for the budget that you did?
It was interesting. There were two outsourced studios that we were working with. One was Epifio doing the visual development, and then so it was working closely with them, getting the look of the film, getting the characters design. And we were talking about Matt. The one character that I think didn't change from visual development to actual film production was really the baptizer. But it was working with Epifio, making sure that we were hitting those production goals. And then the production actually moved to our friends at Lighthouse in Ireland. And so it was interesting in that the film was essentially locked going to Ireland. So as we were delivering the reel packs, we knew that there was very little wiggle room in there. And normally, as you know, as a director, the film kind of evolves over time. The story improves and there are some changes made. We had to have a very solid story going into production. So that was a very variable that we had really not, you know, coming from Disney, we weren't as familiar with that concept. Our films from start to finish. So it was interesting working with their management. They were very much on point and getting things done. We were turning reel packs in each department in essentially 3 weeks, and a reel pack can consist of multiple sequences. So it was a very fast-paced. In order to hit the budget, in order to hit the schedule, it was a very fast-paced, different scope, different process from what we've been used to. But it was amazing how quickly it moved through the pipeline for us.
We have a lot of young viewers, members that watch everything that we do, and you know, we constantly get questions. You know, if I put out a little piece of animation here or there, constantly get questions like, "Why don't you just start your own studio? Why don't you just go out and make a movie?"
Right.
And I want to break it down a little bit for our
viewers.
We're
we're kind of waiting for that too, Aaron.
Yeah,
get all your friends together.
I'm on their side.
I really want to break it down for the viewers about it's just not that easy. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what you were talking about, you know, when you brought it to Ireland, you needed to have that locked reel. A lot of people don't even know what that means.
Okay.
And, you know, one of the things that we try to do, at least I know from the production side, is you keep that crew small so you're not spending a lot of money, and you keep it small for as long as you can, and then you get it out there, right? Mm-hmm. So, getting that story locked is a huge achievement. And how much back and forth did you guys go through in just that stage?
You know, when I first came on the film, there was one of the things that I proposed to Tom and John when I saw the schedule, and they almost had a heart attack. But I said the only way we can squeeze as much iterations out of our stories time, not only, you know, iterations of the script, because there was already quite a few versions that were out there that we were kicking around, but as we know in animation, the storyboards is when the thing comes alive. That's when you really know what you have, how it's playing, how the characters are relating to each other, is once it's boarded. So I said we have to try, and I think in the schedule when it first started, there was maybe one one and a half kind of versions of the animatic that we had in the schedule, and we were going to spend a long time doing that first one to really polish it. But I knew that it wasn't going to be the outcome that we wanted. So I came to them and I suggested we got to squeeze three, if at all possible, three different versions of the animatic in that same time process. So that means our first iteration of the animatic, just sloppy, rough, get the boards up, has to be
Get it
done in
wrong
3
and
months.
get it wrong fast, right? Yeah.
Yeah, fail fast. That's what I tell my students today at Lipscomb University, where I teach here, which is my background. I'm in my office right now. Anyway, we did it, and we got that. In 3 months, we put together, slapped together the animatic, and boy, did we learn a lot. That's when that was the education. That was the point where there was a lot of changes made, and we threw away over half of the storyboards and the film at that point and rewrote things and all of that. So, to answer your question, it is about iterations. And even though you have a tight budget, you have a tight schedule, you have to try and find ways to move faster. One, you have to be more direct in your decision making. You got to kind of go, okay, we're going to go this way, love it or leave it. And if we need to abandon it, we need to abandon it quick. So,
Right.
but the faster we go a direction and stick to that direction, the more we know what'll be wrong and have time to change.
But the challenge with the iteration is also that we couldn't keep the storyboard artists on long. So we were rolling off storyboard artists at Animatic 2. By the time we had Animatic 3, there's no storyboard artists. We just had revisionists. And so we were rolling everyone off to maintain schedule and budget, but we were able to get 3 animatics out there. And that was the tough part there, is how do you start rolling off people when you're not even done with that phase?
I mean, and I just want to jump in and say that's what I want the audience to hear is it's a real juggling constantly because time is money. And so we had a short schedule. I always say we were a fourth of what a Disney movie was.
Right.
And it's in some cases a fifth or a sixth. But
Yeah, right.
we had a fourth of the time, we had a fourth of the team, well, probably a fifth of the team, and then a fourth of the money. And so really we honestly just had to make everything work. We only had I'd say 2 at bats on every single phase, which is like the layout drawings that we would see. Okay, that's good. Change this and this. They'd show it again. Okay, it's probably approved at that point because we kind of need to. And same with every character design, every story point. Story, like Tony said, I think we got more like 2.5 to 3 swings at the whole story, the full animatic. But it is an insane way to work. I mean, I felt like we were running a marathon the whole time.
Yeah. Keep in mind this is also being done remotely. So all the reviews with the visual development group at Epifio and Lighthouse, these were all virtual meetings, virtual reviews. So that added another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And, speaking of story, so I'm looking at it now. I've got it up on my screen. You got a 91-minute runtime with credits. 91 minutes and 2 seconds is what I've got.
Oh, wow.
So that's a lot of story to pack into 90 minutes. And obviously, I don't care what story you're wanting to tell. You always want to tell more than you have time for. And there's always more story to tell than you have time for. So how did you guys, I mean, this is a big story that is known around the world. How did you choose what parts of the story, the viewpoint? I know it's a big question, but I just think it's really unique, the way into the story and then the parts of the story that you told. Is one, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, if you look at the life of Jesus, his is a massive story. And that's one of the reasons why we coming through the Apostle John. Because if we go through the Apostle John, in his gospel, there's this key moments he's in. So that helped us truncate the story alone. So we knew what story beats we had to hit there. The biggest thing too is we had to consolidate time. So we might have incorporated certain things with characters where the Pharisees became multiple stories within the life of Jesus. So it's a consolidation of time, but staying true to the scripture and that stuff. And so I would say going through John's viewpoint helped us because it helped us hone in the story. What are the key beats? And probably the only big moment in the entire thing with John is the walking on water moment. That really wasn't his moment. That's more of a Peter story. And originally that wasn't in there. And I really wanted it to be in there because if you're going to show anything about Jesus doing anything, you got to show some spectacular moment. And that's why we put walking on water in there. And that's really a Peter moment. But we just had to be smart with it early on. We wanted to be kind of and this is before Tom and Tony had come on board, is, we wanted the film to be, entertaining, but had to stay true to scripture. Tom and Tony helped us push that, the entertainment fun side of things, because that's the world they've came from, and to find that balance. But originally, when I was being asked by the story team and all the artists, like, hey, what is the tone of the movie? What do you see it as? What movie could you reference? And I never referenced an animated feature film. The story we were telling, it felt like it's Back to the Future meets Goonies. You have these guys on an adventure, great adventure. There's a dilemma something's going on with the family. How do you help the family? And, and if you look at like our John the Baptist, before Tony stepped in. Tony added the Rafiki type stuff to John the Baptist, but really John the Baptist was our Doc Brown, very eccentric, very heartfelt, and all that stuff. And so, finding that tone early on of how we wanted to tell the story, kind of telling it from the perspective, and then this truncated, and also it had to be focused on John's arc. His arc had to be complete. So we couldn't give backstory to other miracle events and that stuff, because if you have to give a backstory of why this person's here, that would confuse an audience. Because when we made this story, we made it for everyone to enjoy, whether you're a believer or you just love animation but you're not a believer. But we wrote it specifically if you had no concept of the Bible, no concept of Jesus or misconception. We wanted to kind of make this an easy entry point, make it fun.
I think that's an important point, because because not everyone that is going to have the opportunity to see the film believes the same way, right? So I think you guys have done a great job in just creating a film that, it's like I said earlier, it's just a great story, well told, and no matter who you are, you're going to enjoy watching the film. And I think it was such a smart move, putting the audience with John and telling the story through his eyes. I thought that was really smart and a great way to, because a lot of religious films that we've seen through history, especially through stories of Christ, they're always told with Christ, right? They're always with Jesus wherever he is.
Right.
And so doing it this way, I thought was really interesting.
Well, and there's a good reason for that too. I mean, you know yourself, Aaron, from doing a lot of movies and directing and stuff. You got to have a hero that has some kind of an arc. The studio, you want to create that empathy and understanding where the audience recognizes that character and can empathize and connect with them. We did want to make Jesus as relatable as possible, as engaging and as a loving, like a loving father as possible. But by playing it through John's eyes, he's confused. He's got a mom saying one thing about what it is to have faith, a father that's saying another thing about what it is, and he's got to go on his own journey of discovery, right? He's got to find out, what do I believe about this Messiah? Is he real? And is this guy the Messiah? Do I really believe that? And then do I believe why he's here? And a lot of them, this is very biblical. A lot of the disciples were very confused. They thought that Jesus was coming, that he was prophesied to be this, they thought, a warrior, a great warrior king that would come and free them from the Roman oppression. And that wasn't what it was about for him. It was the opposite. He came to die for us. And so that was a big thing to get across, and something we wanted children to be able to interact and engage with in a story. It's a kind of a higher kind of concept, right? About self-sacrifice and faith and things like that can be really hard for kids to swallow. And we tried to make it really palatable and understandable.
Yeah. One of the things that really stands out from outside the story is the art direction of it as well, and which makes it really accessible, and it's got a really great, unique, and consistent art style, just a visual style, from the character design through into the backgrounds, and I just thought it was really interesting and refreshing. I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little
Well,
bit about
I'll
that.
jump in on that, which was, we had, when John first came to me and Pam about this, possibly working on this film, he showed me, and we were going to just do an animation test at the time. That he was just hiring us to say, hey, could you just, we have character designs, could you kind of bring them to life, do a little sequence? We have to be able to show the outsourced studios this is the level we're trying to hit and all that. So there's multiple reasons they wanted this animation test done. And so as we were doing that, we kept asking questions and things like that. And that was sort of like fueling John with sort of like, well, actually, we don't know. We haven't talked about that yet. They were starting to realize, oh, wait, this is kind of what led to us helping out on the film. But also what he did was for us to even take that phase on, he said two things to me, well, three. He said that basically one is, and these were all huge selling points to me, was he showed me the artwork. They had all this concept art that Mike Detton and Luke Leuenbauer and Katie Lee, their core team at Epifio had, and plus all these other people they'd brought in, had done, and it was super unique. It kind of felt Secret of Kells-ish. It felt European mostly, is what I would like to say, and but very stylized and graphic. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are serious. This is not, because it's not what you expect from a Christian animated film, right? Like usually the first stuff I was going to see, I was thinking, oh man, we're gonna have to come in here and change everything. No, I saw that and I was like, if we can get this on the screen, I will be thrilled. It'll be as good as anything out there. And then second, he said, we're going to do it from the point of view of a young John, about 13 or 14 years old. And I was like, oh, that's the way Disney would do it. It would be a coming of age story and all that. Okay. So I was like, oh my gosh, we got to weigh into the story too. That makes a lot of sense. That got me excited. And then last he said it was fully funded. And I was like,
now we can talk.
Right now. Yeah.
But let me,
But just to the style really quickly, what we ended up doing and finding with that style was, and it's one of the real big reasons we went to Lighthouse Studios because we looked at multiple studios across the world, of course, and some were in Canada. And Canada is usually the front runner for this kind of, because the time difference isn't crazy and all that, and the rebates too, of course. But when we found Lighthouse, one of the big pushes was like, oh wait, they're a sister company to Cartoon Saloon, which was one of the elements of one of the targets we were trying to hit was that style. What we discovered through this was like there is a European style that we were already hiring people from Spain and other areas of Europe and even Ireland that were working on doing the development with Epifio. And so we're like, well, wait, if we go to a studio that's outside of the US, they're gonna know that style. It's sort of like they've all been working within that style, or versions of that style, I should say, with Cartoon Saloon. And that'll get us more closer. They won't have to sort of reinvent the wheel like we would if we did it in the US, where Disney style is so prevalent.
Right.
And so even though Tony and I, have that sort of Disney style, we could adapt and hopefully guide them, but we needed people that they already were halfway there.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add to it is like early on when after Matt approved the budget, and we knew it was going to be 2D, but he did ask me like, what would your take be on 2D? And one of the things is I've traveled the world literally because of the production I worked on with CBN for Superbook. I've traveled to over 20 countries, and one of the things that I love to do in all these countries is I go to bookstores and I would always look at children's books. And the one thing is, it doesn't matter if you're in India, if you're in Vietnam, Japan, Beijing, China, wherever you're at, everything has this, it's either illustrated or it has a painterly feel to it. So I really felt like, hey, if we're going to retell the story of Jesus, it should be like a children's storybook come to life, because if you can find commonality in the style from around the world, and children's storybooks is just so relevant in every country, finding that painterly feel, and that was one of the big directions. This is like that children's storybook come to life, and Luke Leuenbauer, our production designer, he leaned into that more, and that's why when you look at our background page, and that's why if you see it in the big screen on the theaters, you'll see those details. You see the brushstrokes, you see the patchworks, you see the nuances of they're different artists with their interpretation of that particular background. And so it's like a work in progress. So we really felt like, hey, we wanted to lean into that. But also from us as a Christian filmmakers, we're looking at it from a perspective of, hey, our background should feel like a work in progress because we as artists, we are still a work in progress in God's eyes. He's still working on us. The animation that Matt wanted, the 2D animation where, hey, it has its flaws because it's done by human hand. It's done hand drawn that way. So there's going to be those nuances. Well, we are flawed. So for us, we leaned into that because it represents us as artists and filmmakers, Christian artists and filmmakers of, hey, this medium, 2D animation, the painterly feel, that's still a work in progress. That's who we are. And that's why we really leaned into that more with the children's storybook come to life. But that's what the style started from was, how do you make a children's storybook come to life like that?
Yeah, because it's really got this wonderful, this graphic flat style to like the character design, for example, but you've done such a wonderful job in giving dimensionality, the way they can turn. We kind of went through it a little bit like that in Mulan. I remember Mulan with Chen Yi Chang and his some of his designs having that really flat graphic quality, and us having to figure out how the heck are we going to turn these characters in space. And you guys really did a great job with that. Just from an animator's point of view, I thought that was really cool. I want to move on to so the film's made, and you created this wonderful thing, this beautiful piece of art, and everyone out there, a lot of young people out there think, okay, you've got your movie made now. Now go show it. And that's only half the battle. You've got your movie made. How are you getting out? How are you getting it out to the world? I mean, that's the thing.
Well, it starts with the Aaron Blaise live stream, of course.
Of course.
Booking time with you and your audience is
We're going to
huge
start
for
figuring
us.
it out after today. Yeah. But no, there's been a lot of work. Go ahead, John. I know you've been very involved in this.
Yeah, so again, Matt, who funded the movie for the 20 million, he's funded the P&A. That's for the marketing budget of 10 million. So that's an additional cost there.
For those that don't know, P&A is press and advertising. It's all the marketing for the film for people that don't know.
And it used to stand for prints and advertising.
Yeah, print
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it is more like press and advertising nowadays.
Yeah. So I would say the marketing started about several months ago, and just kind of getting images out there, getting PR kind of going. And you know what? I never knew you had to pay for PR. I just didn't realize it's a pay to play industry we're in. Like, I didn't realize like if you want Hollywood Reporter or Variety or the big magazines to kind of do a review, well, you got to have a full page ad.
Yeah, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah. So for us, here's what we got going against us. Salvation Poem Project. No one knows who we are. We are self-distributing it. So that allows us, what self-distributing allows us to do is we get a lion's share of the proportion as this thing, because we are the studio and we're the distributor. So we get the lion's share of that. But also we control our destiny. So like at this point, we can control what platforms, how we want to deal with it. So we didn't go with Lionsgate or Sony Affirm and all the ones that everyone thought we would go with, or Angel Studios. We felt like, hey, let's kind of do everything. If we're going to create our own content from this point on, we got other animated features, live action, let's become our own distributor. And so that's kind of where we're going. And we hired different marketing firms like Collide, and we hired Epic PR firms. So we're working closely with them. Tom and Tony, they have a massive audience. So early on, they were the ones who grew our Instagram account. They grew our Facebook, our YouTube. So, leaning into Tom and Tony's audience and just everyone else. So it's, what does 10 million get us? 10 million gets us about 1,900 screens. But that 1,900 screens doesn't mean all those seats are filled. So we're driving that beast and everything right now. So it is kind of crazy right now, there's all the stuff going on.
But
I want to interject real quick. I want to ask another question, because this is, it's not new in the last 15 years or so, but social media is such a huge part of it now.
Yeah.
No.
And where it wasn't, back in our day when we were at Disney and all that sort of thing, everything was kept quiet and secret and everything else. And I'm wondering how you kind of leaned into that a little bit.
So what we really did be started is it was Tom and Tony. We definitely leaned onto them to help us gear up everything. But we also had a strategy. So there's influencers, and it's interesting. I just didn't realize how much influencers get paid for like a single post or things like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Influencers speak to that audience. If they
Yeah.
say, this is a movie I love, you got to go see it, their following will go see that movie. So the strategy has really changed. We have TV advertising, and, it's like, but the biggest spend is influencers because they will drive more than TV audience, more than radio audience. And so,
Yeah.
But early on, what we leaned into is what you leaned into when you were asking us questions, Aaron, is about the production value, about the fact that it's 2D animation. And so when Tom and I were talking to our audience on Instagram, they're the same as your audience. They're people, they're artists that are
Yeah.
going, hey, when is 2D coming back? And how do we be part of this new revolution of bringing 2D back?
And not
That's
just
what-
artists. I mean, it's a big part
No,
of the
and
inspiration.
you're right. It's
Yeah.
the reason that Matt, our big boss, that headed up the Salvation Poem Salvation Poem Foundation. It's the reason that he wanted to make this 2D is that there is a charm there to hand-drawn animation, and it is exactly what John was referring to. We all know it's imperfect, and yet it still is very artistic. It's artisanal, and that's a a catchphrase that people throw around a lot, but people want that. They want that old style look. They want that handcrafted style. And so being able to lean on that, now it's funny because the marketing team picked that up and now they're talking about, hey, if you like, the charm of the 1990s films, they don't always mention Disney, but the 1990s films, then you're going to love Light of the World. It has that charm,
It's true. It's in this era of AI and all this stuff that we're always hearing about. I mean, it's one of the number one questions I get whenever I do my other live streams is, how do you think AI is going to affect our industry and is 2D dead and blah 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 blah. And my answer to that is, and Nick, my business partner, has got a fun description of it as well. But the answer is, 2D only goes away if we let it go away. And, if you're making 2D, then obviously it's not going away. And the idea of AI art, AI doesn't have the human experience. It doesn't have that spirit that we can put into our hand-drawn art. And one of the theories I have, and I'm sure you guys can elaborate on this, is that my theory is actually we're going to start. Yes, AI is going to become a tool in the toolbox, but we're also going to start to lean more into that human handcrafted. The pendulum will swing the other way. It's going to be, people are going to starve for more human-made stuff. So I think we're actually on the cusp of a great new era in a sense. Or it might not be the 90s major studios, but in the way that we can make films, especially with you guys being independent filmmakers, making a 2D films, that's where I think 2D is going. I was wondering if you guys wanted to talk about that.
Well, I definitely agree with that. That's for sure. Go ahead, John.
yeah, I'll just add this thing from Salvation Poem Project. This is where our stance is, whether we do more shorts or another feature film, for us, we will stay 2D. We won't go CGI. We feel like for
You
us,
heard it here first on the Aaron Blaise live
but
stream.
we feel like that's our signature. That's who we are. That's our style. It's about the craftsmanship. And so for us, we've made the commitment, and we have a game coming out in 2027 called Clayfire, and that's all being animated 2D as well. And so that's kind of our stance. So we will always be making 2D content that for us, whether they're shorts or another feature.
Yeah, another thing I like to say is that, the end product of whatever you're making, a film, a painting, or whatever, that's a bonus. The real treat as an artist is the process of making it, right? As an animator, I love to animate. So why would I hand that over to a machine to do for me to spit something out? And so that's what I try to explain to people. As an artist, if you want to create, then nothing's going to take that away from you, and you can keep creating, you can keep drawing and painting. There's always going to be a market for it. And
I obviously what you're saying with that, though, I want to throw this out there, is that it's going to be a lean lifestyle, right? Like the days of potentially being a millionaire animator, and there was a time where we had that in the 90s, and when the Jeffrey Katzenbergs of the world kind of rose up and created DreamWorks, and the competition between Disney and stuff, that became a reality. I don't know if we were ever meant to be
Yeah, I
millionaires.
mean, we're artists because we want to be artists, and none of
Exactly.
us got into this because we thought we were going to be rich.
And we hear that from students all the time is like, their parents want to know how much does an animator make and all that. And I get that when they're coming and they're looking at our school, Lipscomb University, or Tony and I teach. And I've heard that question many times from a parent. I totally get it. I'll be like, well, I'll try and give them an answer of like in a range or whatever. And they're surprised. It's actually, oh, those are good numbers. Okay, that it is. It's still comparable to what you do in other other areas, non-artistic areas. But that can't be what drives the artists. That can drive the parents for sure, but it can't be what drives. You have to love it, because if you don't love it, you're not going to be able to take on the challenges that come with it. And there are many challenges throughout. Any of us could tell stories of lost jobs, of scary moments in our careers and in our lives, because we were so driven to, this is all I can do. That's what I like to tell parents too, is like, I've been fired from every other job I've ever done that wasn't art related because it's true. I was a security guard. I got fired from
At
that.
Winchell's Donuts laid him off.
I was at a donut shop, and I kept throwing the donut holes up into the ceiling fans, and seeing how far it would hit it. And
okay,
because
so none of this has anything to do with you being an artist, Tom. This is just you being a bonehead.
It is. It's the imagination. I'm living in another world oftentimes, and unfortunately that distracts me from the real world.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, you're
all.
so creative.
But the point is, the drive is the art, right? The drive is not the dollar. If your drive is to make the dollar, you're going to be disappointed. And there's one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from my father was never chase that dollar, chase your heart, and then the dollar will come. And that's what I think is happening with us in this industry. We've gone through lean times, we've gone through really, really great times. And but that drive to create beautiful animation never goes away, or great paintings, or whatever it is you want to do in the art world. And so that's what should be driving us as artists. And you guys have really kind of come together and as a team and created a beautiful piece of art. It's really inspiring.
Well, thank you.
It's just the beginning. That's why I love hearing John talk about what Salvation Poem Project's doing, and that they have a future there with video games and many more films, we hope. But it does come down to this. I got to hit this nail for us. The movie opens today. If you love 2D animation, if you love animation in general, please support this film. You don't have to be a Christian that goes to church every Sunday to support this animated feature. And in fact, as Aaron said, you still can very much enjoy the story of it. So we hope that people will support this and go out and see it. This is, it's crucial to the future of what Salvation Poem Project does. It's crucial to all of our futures. I'm one that always says support animation whenever it's happening. I mean, and I just want to say too, a shout out to what Nick and Aaron, what you guys have done for 2D animation, what you're doing in the animation industry in general has been so inspiring. It inspires us as we move forward. I know
it goes back and forth. Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, just take it for a minute. Anyway, you guys are doing a great job, and even just supporting our film and the efforts we've taken with Light of the World by having us on the show just means the world to us too. But please, people, go see Light of the World this weekend.
Yeah, one of the things I forgot to say, I just want to go back to the whole AI thing. Nick has this term. We're going to be leaning into creating artisanal art, that handmade, art. That's what I love about this film so much, is that it just screams handmade and from the heart and from human hands. And which, like you said, thematically goes right into the telling of the story. Everything about it, it's really, really great. So for those of you out there that are listening, yes, if it's playing at a theater near you, go see it, check it out, support them, enjoy it, and spread the word. I don't, you guys want to add anything to?
I think Pam should wrap us up. Go ahead, Pam.
Yeah, no pressure. Go see the film. It's an amazing film. A lot of heart in it. You can tell.
How many times have you seen it this weekend, opening weekend?
Opening weekend, I'm seeing it twice, but we've also bought extra tickets in the theater.
You're going to hand
We're
him out.
supporting those numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then
Well,
we're
and I
going to
do.
go
Let me.
again the following weekend. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't want to double down too much and take up too much time, but we also have this day. Tom and I do a podcast called the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast. Hopefully, we got some fans out there in the Aaron and Nick show. But please listen to that, because the same panel of guests here, we also did a podcast where we dig deeper into some of the technical elements of animation for our animation listeners. I think you'll enjoy it. So check out that also on the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast.
John, do you want to add anything?
Last thing I'll just say is, hey, if Disney was going to make a movie about the life of Jesus in the 90s, this is that movie without the musical numbers. It is a fun movie to go see, and that's what I would say.
And by the way, I fought for the musical numbers.
Tom tried.
Yeah, Tom did.
He
Yeah.
did, constantly.
With the timeline we had, it was never going to happen. That would have taken too much time to add that. But
That
man,
was the
I wish-
Winchell Donuts, Tom. That was that guy. Go
I
ahead.
was dreaming.
Dreaming. Would it be cool
What
if he
if-
stuck on the ceiling?
Yeah. And then Pam was like, no, we don't have time for that.
This was my all day, every day with these guys.
Oh, I know. That's I've known these guys for almost 38 years now. So yeah.
Yep.
I remember sitting across, just to reminisce again, I always do it with you guys, sitting across from you on our first day during orientation. And there was like 15 of us sitting there, and we all had to go into orientation. We were all fresh little 20-year-old, 21-year-olds or whatever we were.
And we all had long hair or hair.
Yeah, or hair, exactly.
Just hair.
Yeah. No, we didn't have long hair. We had to follow that Disney dress code.
Oh yeah, you got it shaved off because you came in with long hair and they made you shave it off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, thanks you guys. And for those of you listening, go see this film. It's a wonderful film. The Light of the World opens today at theaters around the country. You said 1,900 theaters opening today? So odds are it's at a theater near you. So go check it out.
You can find theaters going to lightoftheworld.com, find a theater and showtime near you.
All right. So thanks a lot, you guys. That was amazing. And for the rest of you out there, please go see the movie. It's a great film. Like I said, I saw it last night. I loved it. And I think you guys are too. So with that, go on out there, put some beauty back into the world, animate from the heart, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
And Aaron, because we're animators, Tony and I had to do a little animation on this film. There's 2 shots in the movie, one I did and one that Tony did. I'm not going to describe it because honestly, it'd be kind of hard to find them. But Tony did one scene of John the Baptizer in that sequence when he's talking to the Pharisees. And I did one shot of this little girl, and it's in the trailer. It's this little girl with a sword, and she goes, "Yay, Jesus!" And when it went to Lighthouse, they kind of complained. They were like, they had to bring in cleanup people that they didn't have staffed to be able to clean up our stuff. And they're like, "You're actually slowing us down by doing this."
Yeah. And we were like, we're going to help them get this film done.
We thought we were like,
Hey, slowed it down.
So cut out all the other stuff where Tony's talking and just throw that in there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot better.